Bonjour, on va faire une leçon sur comment décrire la nourriture. How to describe food. Adjective agreement explained. Observez et écoutez. Le riz est léger. La salade est légère. Les fruits sont légers. Les pâtes sont légères. Qu'est-ce qui se passe? What is happening? Why are there 4 different ways to say light? Le riz est léger, la salade est légère, les fruits sont légers, les pâtes sont légères. You have been studying French long enough that I suspect you have a theory as to what is happening here. Teste ton hypothèse. Les baguettes sont légers, légères, légers ou légères. Correct. Les baguettes sont légères. Le melon est léger, légère, léger ou légère. Bravo. Le melon est léger. Les légumes sont légers, légères, légers ou légères. Ils sont légers, les légumes. La glace n'est pas léger, légère, léger ou légère. La glace n'est pas légère. Elle est riche. Alors, c'est quoi l'idée? Have you figured out the big idea? How do we know which form of the adjective léger to choose to describe each food? It is the gender and number of the noun that dictates our choice. As you know, nouns have a gender, masculine, feminine, and just like in English, they can be singular or plural. That's what we mean by number. If the noun being modified is masculine and singular, you will use the masculine singular form of the adjective to modify that noun. The masculine singular form is what we consider the base form. So if we look over at that column on the right, il est léger. If we are modifying a feminine singular noun, we're going to use the base form of the adjective plus the letter E. Elle est légère. So in this case, the spelling and the pronunciation both change. Sometimes that E doesn't change the pronunciation. It depends. If we are modifying a noun that is masculine and plural, then we need to use the masculine plural form of the adjective, which is the base form plus the letter S. Ils sont légers. For a feminine plural noun, base form plus ES. Elles sont légères. So that is our basic formula. The changing of the form of the adjective to match the noun that it's modifying in gender and number is called adjective agreement. Adjective agreement. It's an important concept that we'll be working on this year. Adjective agreement happens with all adjectives. In French, in Spanish, in Italian, in Portuguese, in all of the Romance languages, this grammatical concept exists. Spanish speakers, you do this without even realizing that you're doing it. Maybe some of you have noticed the colors up on my wall before, how there's S's and E's and sometimes different forms like violet, violette. It's because of adjective agreement. If you notice the asterisk and the orange type on here, I said it happens with all adjectives. Oh, asterisk, there are a very small number of adjectives that never change. So 99% of the time, you'll have to make adjective agreement, but there is that 1%. And a couple of them are colors that we actually use fairly often, orange and marron. They do not ever change. They have only one form. When adjectives don't change, we call them invariable, invariable. They do not vary or change. Entraînez-vous. Les frites sont salées, salées, salées ou salées. Correct. Les frites sont salées. La tarte aux pommes est sucrée, sucrée, sucrée ou sucrée. Elle est sucrée. Le poulet jerk jamaïcain est épicé, épicé, épicé ou épicé. Bravo, épicé. Les pêches sont sucrées, sucrées, sucrées ou sucrées. Elles sont sucrées. Bravo, you have mastered the basic idea. Of course, there are exceptions. Let's look at 4 exceptions to the basic rule. The basic rule is what you see in that chart below. Base form plus E or S or ES. Exception 1. When the masculine singular or base form ends in an unaccented letter E. So we think of the E as belonging to the feminine form, but there are masculine forms of adjectives that already end in a plain old unaccented E, like riche. Le gâteau est riche, la glace est riche. Les desserts sont riches, les soupes sont riches. So do you see what's happening here? You do not add another E when the masculine singular base form ends in an unaccented E. Il est riche, elle est riche. They're going to look the same. So you end up with only 2 forms of the adjective, a singular and a plural. Compare what happens with the unaccented E to when the adjective ends in an accented E. On the left with a riche, we only have 2 forms of the adjective because you're not going to add a second E to the feminine form. However, when the masculine form ends in an accented E, like épicé or salé or sucré, the feminine form does take a second plain old unaccented E. And then the plural forms kind of follow the pattern. So you have 4 versions of the adjective. Okay, here's exception 2. When the masculine singular base form ends in the letter S, even though it's singular, not plural. For example, mauvais. Le fromage est mauvais. La carotte est mauvaise. We added our E to the feminine form, but look at the masculine plural. Les oignons sont mauvais. Mauvais looks the same as it did in the singular. It just ends in that S again. Les pommes de terre sont mauvaises. Feminine form takes another S. So do you see what's happening here? You don't add another S when the masculine singular form already ends in S. So you're not going to end up with 2 S's in a row. Il est mauvais, ils sont mauvais. Okay? Exception 3 is very similar to exception 2. When the masculine singular form ends in X, X is kind of like S sometimes. It can make a plural for French. So here we've got le fromage est délicieux, la mangue est délicieuse, les avocats sont délicieux. So look at our masculine plural form is the same as our masculine singular form. Les olives sont délicieuses. Our feminine forms follow the regular rule. So you don't add an S to the plural masculine when the singular masculine base form ends in an X. Il est délicieux, ils sont délicieux. Elle est délicieuse, elles sont délicieuses. Those follow the rule. Okay, exception 4 is when your masculine singular and your feminine singular forms differ by more than just the addition of an E. And there are actually quite a few versions of this irregularity. 2 that we've got on our list here are with délicieux and bon. If we look at délicieux, the feminine form is a little bit different, délicieuse. There's more going on than just adding an E. It's kind of like changing the ending entirely. And then if we look at bon, le fromage est bon, in the feminine form, we've doubled the E and the pronunciation is different. Bonne, la sauce est bonne. Okay? This all seems like a lot, but the longer you study French, you'll start to recognize that there are patterns that happen even in irregulars, and you're going to start to get used to this, I promise. Okay, testez-vous. Le steak à ce restaurant est très bon, très bonne, très bon ou très bonne. Il est très bon le steak. Les frites à ce restaurant sont très bon, très bonne, très bon ou très bonne. Elles sont très bonnes les frites. À mon avis, la nourriture ici est trop riche, riche, riche ou riche. Correct, elle est trop riche. Because remember, when the masculine feminine form ends in an unaccented E, you don't add another one. So those 2 that are barred out don't even exist. I made those up to trick you. Did it work? Les croissants de Costco sont étonnamment délicieux, délicieuses, délicieux ou délicieuses. Délicieux. Remember that when the masculine singular form ends in X, to make it plural, we do nothing at all. We do not add another S. So even though croissant is plural here, masculine plural, it's just got that X at the end. Léo pense que les légumes sont mauvais, mauvaises, mauvais ou mauvaises. Correct, mauvais. You're catching on. I'm trying to trick you with forms that don't exist. Mauvais ends in an S in its masculine singular form. When we make it plural, we do not add a second S. Les nuggets de poulet sont très salés, très salés, très salés ou très salés. Ils sont très salés, mais bons aussi. On dit que la cuisine française est délicieuse, délicieuse, délicieux ou délicieuse. Elle est délicieuse. Ça n'existe pas. Bravo. Let's do a quick recap. You're almost done. What is adjective agreement? Adjective agreement is matching the adjective to the noun it is modifying in gender and in number. The noun is in charge. The adjective has to agree. Typically, if it follows the rules, an adjective has how many forms? Typically, an adjective has 4 forms: a masculine singular form, a feminine singular form, a masculine plural form, and a feminine singular form. That should say plural, a feminine plural form. What is considered the base form of the adjective? The masculine singular form is considered the base form of the adjective. When the masculine singular form of the adjective ends in an unaccented E, do you add another E to make the feminine form? No, you do not add another E when the masculine singular form ends in an unaccented E. Il est riche, elle est riche. It looks and sounds the same. When the masculine singular form of the adjective ends in an accented E, do you add another E to make the feminine form? Yes, you do add another E. Il est sucré, elle est sucrée. They sound the same, but they are written differently. When the masculine singular form of the adjective ends in an S or an X, do you add another S or X to make the masculine plural form? No, you do not. Il est mauvais, ils sont mauvais. Il est délicieux, ils sont délicieux. They look and sound the same. C'est la fin de la leçon. Ouais.